I always loved Cuphead. The game is very good looking, all of the animations are hand-drawn, and the game is also challenging. Since I had already spent a lot of hours to not only beat the game, but also to 200% it, I thought I was good enough to attempt a speedrun of the game. Basically, the goal is to start the game from scratch and beat the final boss as fast as I can. The lore is simple. Cuphead and his brother Mugman secretly went in the Devil's Casino, where they were on a huge win streak and had won a ton of money. Then the devil himself made an offer to them. One final game. If the brothers won, they would win everything in the casino, but if they lost, then they would have to give their souls to the devil. Cuphead took the risk and lost, so the brothers immediately started begging to keep their souls. The devil decided that he would let Cuphead and Mugman go only if they managed to collect every single soul contract from the devil's enemies that owed him their soul but never gave it to him. We started off going to our grandpa, I think, Elder Kettle, and he helps us by giving us a weapon to defend ourselves, the pea shooter. Reloading isn't a problem because it wasn't invented yet, so I can shoot infinitely. I waste no time and immediately start running towards the first level, but on my way I talk to this apple dude that feels empathy towards me and gives me 3 coins to help me out. I enter the first level, which is a run and gun, where I have to make it to the end without dying. The main strategy is to use my dash ability as much as possible to go faster and also collect all of the coins. It's hard not to get hit, because if you touch basically anything you lose an HP, so I lose 2 HP on purpose to go faster. I can also parry pink objects if I press the jump button while in the air, and every time I do so a card fills up in the bottom left. These cards also fill up the more damage I do, and with them I can use a super attack which takes one of my cards. For example, I use 2 super attacks to destroy this acorn machine because I have 2 cards. I make it to the end without any problems, and now I go to the shop to buy some new weapons. I buy the spread shot and the lobber, which are ideal for the speedrun. The spread shot deals massive damage but has very low range, and the lobber deals good damage but has medium range. I make my way to the first boss fight, the root pack, and I immediately try to get as close to the potato as possible. I can jump over his attack, but since the last one of his attacks is pink, I parry it for an extra card. I take out the potato, and since the lobber attack bounces off of the ground multiple times, I can set up a lobber trap so that the onion gets hit a lot when it pops out of the ground. I then use 3 of my lobber super attacks on the ground because it still hits the boss but doesn't push me back with its recoil, allowing me to keep being close to the onion so I can effectively use the spread shot. I take out the onion and set up another lobber trap for the carrot, and then I keep shooting it and trying to deal as much damage as possible using my super attacks, which by the way are called EXs. I have all my HP left, so I don't care about being hit, and I take out the carrot in no time, which means I collected my first soul contract, 16 more to go. Also, don't worry, the vegetables I just fought weren't harmed because dying wasn't invented yet. I make my way to the next boss fight, Reby and Croaks, and the plan is to once again stay as close as possible while using the spread shot. After dodging some attacks, I make it to the next phase where I literally use the same strategy. However, the third phase is different, as the brothers turn into a slot machine. After parrying the boxing glove to use the slot machine, it makes me dodge an attack, and I get the hardest attack to dodge, but I want to be dealing as much damage as possible, so I play it risky and I lose 1 HP. I then use the machine again and get the easiest attack, in which I can use the spread shot to finish the boss and get myself another soul contract. Next up is Goopy Legrand, a literal ball that bounces around. I somehow immediately get hit, but that doesn't matter. The strategy is to follow Goopy around while using the spread shot, and that works as I make it to the second phase where Goopy is the same but bigger and faster. I do the same thing, but I get hit again. Then Goopy turns into a giant gravestone, which we wanna follow around and dodge his one attack, and finally defeat him with one of my spread shot EXs. The spread shot EXs can be deadly when I'm inside a boss's hitbox. Now you might think that this game is easy, but from now on every boss increases in difficulty drastically. I proceed to skip the airplane tutorial and go fight the first airplane boss, Hilda Berg. The airplane mechanic is very fun, but it's similar to the normal levels. We wanna dodge the projectiles and keep shooting Hilda. Then she charges towards me, but I get hit on purpose to do this trick. I use an EX so that it hits Hilda as much as possible, but then I get hit by the bull attack, or is it a sheep? I don't know. Anyway, I'm on 1 HP and I have to play flawlessly. An extra airplane mechanic is that I can become smaller and faster without doing good damage, which helps with dodging attacks such as the tornado. She transforms again, but this phase was easy, and after a bit she turns into a moon and sends out stars and UFOs to attack me. However, they aren't that difficult to dodge, so I use all of my EXs and finish her off. I make my way to the final boss of the first island, Cagney Carnation. In this fight, we want to shoot our lubber in his face and react to every attack correctly. However, I messed up and got hit. I then parried the pink thing from his attack and I got hit again, so I'm on 1 HP once again. He transitions to his final phase in which I cannot touch the ground, but I manage to beat him before he beats me. Then I meet King Dice, Devil's right hand man, and he lets me in on the second island. I switch my lubber for my pea shooter for that extra range, but a bit less damage, and enter a difficult boss, Baroness von Bonbon. Before I get to fight her, I have to fight 3 random mini bosses, starting with the Waffle boss. He has an attack where he splits up around him, but it's easy to dodge, so I try to get close whenever I can and defeat him. The second boss is the Jawbreaker, which literally just follows you around. Also, jelly beans start coming out of the castle, but they weren't a problem. I then face off against a candy machine. There was so much going on that I got hit once before taking him out. And now I made it to the final phase where Bom Bom makes her castle chase us, but that transition takes so long, so I use as many spread shot EXs as I can, dealing massive damage, and then I get hit, but I finish her from afar with the pea shooter. I collect my soul contract and talk to the airplane guy that upgrades my airplane, so I have a second weapon, the bombs. The next boss on the line is Wally Warbles, and I somehow get hit immediately. His attacks aren't very difficult to dodge, and eventually he goes to his second phase where I use all 5 of my EXs combined to become a big bomb that deals massive damage. This phase is easy to dodge, so I quickly take him out, and then he leaves his son to fight me. Why is he such a bad father? I try to get as close to the little guy as possible and parry his attacks. After I defeat him, I pause and unpause the game to start the next phase faster, where Wally is being carried by 2 other birds and is probably headed to the hospital. The strategy is to use as many EXs as possible right here to deal maximum amounts of damage, but since I'm so risky, I get hit, leaving me with just 1 HP. I dodge as much as I can while using my new bomb attack, and I finally knock him out. Next up is the Jimmy the Great, who is a genie. He uses his cat attack on me, which is very difficult to dodge, but I somehow clutch it and don't get hit. I use a bunch of EXs and he leaves, making me go through an auto-scroller part where I have to destroy the heads and dodge the circular saws. I take out the heads by using a few normal attacks and then a bomb attack to do maximum damage, since this damage transfers over to the next phase. I got hit because I forgot to destroy this head, and then the next phase I try to deal as much damage as possible quickly, and since I dealt so much damage in the past phases, this one ends really quickly. Then the genie scans me and uses Mughead or Cupman to defeat me, but I managed to only get hit once and take out that abomination with only 1 HP left. The final phase of the genie isn't that bad because I sit in one of the corners and use EXs until I finally take him out. I then switch back to the lubber and fight the next boss, Beppy the Clown. The first phase is not hard since I just use the lubber to damage Beppy, the spread shot to deal with the ducks so I don't get hit by them, and I keep jumping over Beppy when he tries to run me over. Beppy falls off and I set up a lubber trap for the next phase where Beppy becomes a balloon. He attacks by using inflated dogs to chase me and a literal train to run me over. I completely destroy him with the spread shot, and then he uses a horse to attack me, which I get under to deal maximum damage. I sacrifice 1 of my HP to take out this phase faster, and then I set up a big lubber trap for the last phase where Beppy becomes a literal carousel and uses penguins that throw baseballs to attack me. The strategy is to use the spread shot and deal massive amounts of damage with the EXs. And there we go, only 8 bosses left. Then I have to face off against a really hard boss, Grim Matchstick. Grim is a dragon that has various attacks which we need to deal with. The weapon I'll be using for the whole fight is the lubber because of its above average damage and better range than the spread shot. I have to deal with parkouring on clouds while the dragon shoots some lasers and fireballs that swerve up and down, and also uses his tail to sneakily try to attack me. After dodging for a bit, the dragon leaves, shows up on the other side of the screen and uses his tongue to attempt to make me get hit by his fire babies or whatever those are. Whenever I see one stopping, I have to be careful because it will launch towards me. Even after trying my best, I still get hit once, but shortly after I make it to the third and hardest phase, where the dragon reveals it had 3 heads all along. His attack is some slow fireballs that if I shoot with my weapon bursts into 4 smaller fireballs, so I have to avoid hitting them. This phase is all about knowing when to shoot and when to parkour, and after playing like a professional for a bit, the dragon uses a flamethrower, where I have to stand very high to avoid it and use all of my EXs to defeat the boss, since I dealt so much damage. That's all the second island boss is done, so I make my way to King Dice, who allows me to go to the third island. I then face probably the second hardest boss of the speedrun, but I accidentally switched to my pea shooter weapon before entering, so I had to leave, switch it back, and go back in the battle, so that was a small time loss. This boss is Rumor Honeybottoms, and just like the dragon, I have to parkour onto some platforms in order to not take damage. For the first phase of the battle, I have to defeat a bee police officer, and the best way I found was to be above him and shoot my lobber shots above him in order for them to come back down and hit him. After taking him out, the queen bee or Honeybottoms appears, and I try to use the spread shot as much as I can. She uses an attack where I have to dodge some triangles and sacrifice an HP for extra damage. After that, she goes to the middle and sends some swerving bee bullets to try to hit me that I can dodge by moving up and down of these platforms. I got really lucky and most of the platforms on the right side were there, while on the left side most of the platforms were missing. Then while she was transitioning into her last phase, where she becomes an airplane, I accidentally got hit again, leaving me with 1 HP. I tried to stand above her and shoot my lobber upwards, and this phase was really easy as I had done a lot of damage in the last phase. That was good because the last phase is usually unpleasant. I make my way to the third hardest boss of the speedrun in my opinion, Dr. Ocal's robot. This is another plane level where the first phase we have to dodge attacks from all 3 of the robot's body parts and also take them all out. I like to first take out the lower body part and then the top one, followed by the middle one. I remember to keep destroying the homing bombs whenever they appear. Then the robot pops out at his heart, so I focus on destroying it as fast as I can. After I do destroy it, I use this trick to skip the second phase, since it is very long and is super annoying. The third phase is by far the hardest. The robot uses a diamond to shoot a ton of projectiles everywhere on the screen. I use as many EXs as possible and manage to end the fight with only 1 HP left. Now it's time to say goodbye to the lobber, as I won't be using it anymore for the rest of the speedrun. I switch to the pea shooter and start a relatively easy fight, solid stage play. I was sure I would win this battle with ease, but then I got hit in the first phase. Twice. I then make it to the second phase and activate Ultra Instinct. How did I not get hit there? I make it to the third phase and finish it so fast, Sally didn't even realize it. And then in the last phase, I tried to always stay underneath her to use the spread shot and some pea shooter EXs. Oh, I think that's the best EX usage I've ever seen. I somehow clutched the fight with 1 HP, and that happens multiple times in the rest of the speedrun. The next fight is Werner Wertmann, where this Jerry-looking rat tries to murder me, defeat me, while being in his can by using his weird inventions. It kinda worked as I did get hit, but in the second phase, I tried to deal so much damage which resulted in me getting hit again. Then Tom comes out of nowhere and eats Werner and then tries to defeat me himself. However, I can deal a lot of easy damage with the spread shot and survive once again with 1 HP. Up next is Captain Brainibeard, who is a captain with a sentient boat and barrel and also uses sea animals to his advantage. He tried attacking me with his squid, but I parried it. Then he called up his homie the shark, which couldn't reach me. Then he used literal dogfish that didn't even touch me, so the boat got so mad it took control and tried defeating me on its own. However, the boat didn't realize that I can do something remarkable, memorize its attack patterns. All I had to do was jump at the right times and I beat the boss in record time. Heck, I even got a perfect score. After that, I had to deal with Cala Maria, a mermaid, and I just gotta get this out of the way. Smash! Anyway, I perform pixel perfect maneuvers to dodge her attacks and parry so much that I used 2 big bombs in the first phase alone. Then she turns into Medusa, and every time she petrifies me I have to mash as many buttons as possible to break free. This phase is difficult, but since I dealt so much damage in the last phase, this one lasted only a little bit. In the last phase, she somehow disconnects her head from her body and uses some floating attacks that I need to avoid while randomly being petrified electrified. Since I had 3 HP left, I played very risky and ended up losing 2 of my HP to end the fight faster. One singular contract left. The final boss is the Phantom Express, basically a train filled up with ghosts that I need to take care of. Also, this boss is like right outside the casinos, so they could take care of it themselves. How this fight works is, I have a cart that I can move around by parrying those things at each end. Firstly, I have to face off against this ghost that uses eyeballs to try and unalive me. I also have to worry about those pumpkins that try to move my cart by throwing bars of soap on the edges. I try to take them out so they don't mess me up. Oh shoot, that's an even more amazing EX than the one before. Can't believe I did it twice. Being on 2 HP is fine, so I finish the boss and make it to the second phase where this skeleton dude attempts to turn me into a pancake. This one is not so complicated. I defeat him and proceed to phase 3 where these 2 bold electric beam shooting monsters try to turn me into dust while I have to deal with homing ghosts with pink skulls inside. I can deal huge damage with this spread and take them out without any problems, which leads me to the final phase where the train itself says, "Fine, I'll do it myself," and grows legs. Then it shoots fireballs at me in a bone circle thing while I parry its tail to open up its heart and start shooting it with everything I've got. After breaking the record of the best use of NEX a 3rd time, I pull off the win with just 1 health point left. Now I have all of the soul contracts, so I go to the casino where King Dice says we made him lose a bet, so he wants to unalive us now, so we have to fight him in a battle. But before that, he makes us fight different mini-bosses in a roulette-like game where we roll a 3-sided dice and we have to make it to the end. I first rolled the 3 and fought this cigar guy where I damage boost through him to use the spread shot in order to deal massive damage and finish him with ease. Also in the end, King Dice steps on the cigar dude, which makes me think that he could easily step on me. I then roll a 1 which lands me in a safe spot, and then I roll a 3 to regenerate 1 HP and fight this skeleton horse dude. He tries to attack me with presents that explode into many horseshoes, and also I have to pay attention on the bottom of the screen since the blue horse riders jump at me. This fight isn't that bad at all, but I got hit in the very last second. I then roll another 3 to land on the 8-ball boss, who is very easy. All I have to do is dodge the one attack he uses and the dirty chuck razors I think that are jumping around, and he is done in no time. Then I roll a 2 to land on a safe spot, and then a 3 to finally fight the devil's right-hand man. King Dice tries using his cards to attempt to make me mess up parrying them, and I indeed mess up, once again leaving me with 1 HP. But I keep using the spread shot and my pea shooter EXs and manage to finally defeat him, granting myself access to the devil himself. I make my way there, and the devil, realizing that I'm a very skilled fighter, tries to persuade me into joining him and working for him. But I say no. The devil isn't too happy about it, and the final battle starts. All of these hours of practicing I had done came down to this moment. The devil is the hardest boss of them all, and I always struggle to beat him. He uses a variety of attacks in his first phase that I need to dodge while keeping up my damage and also paying attention to his minions that run across the screen. Against all odds, I make it to the second phase untouchable. In this phase, I can use a ton of my spread shot EXs to deal massive damage to his eyes. After dodging his only 2 attacks, I make it to the third phase. I try to deal damage, but I get hit by the fire chip. Immediately after, I get hit by the skull, and after I dash into the big purple minion, which unalives me. All of this time, just to lose all 3 of my hit points in the blink of an eye. No, this was such a good run. So many time saves, so many hard bosses done first try, and unfathomably fast. I gave myself 1 more attempt at the devil. I retry the battle, putting me back in the first phase. I somehow dodge the hardest attacks flawlessly, and I make it to the second phase. Once again, I deal as much damage as possible before getting hit. I make it to the third phase with 3 HP again. Devil, it's me or you. I parry the skulls and perform godlike maneuvers while dealing maximum damage. I make it to the fourth and final phase, where the devil realizes what he has gotten himself into. I shoot into his eyes, while not caring about losing HP since I'm at max health. And then, knockout! I did it. I finally got the speedrun. The cops then destroyed the contracts, freed everybody, blah 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 blah. Alright, subscribe, bye!